Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Town of Oyster Bay Town Board meeting of Tuesday, November 28th, 2017. To begin this evening's Town Board meeting and to lead us in the prayer will be led by Father Valentine Rebello of the St. Pius Roman Catholic Church in Plainview. The St. Pius Roman Catholic community extends a warm welcome to all. They're known for their strong congregation and for their tireless commitment to the community. Father Valentine, would you please lead us in prayer?
Tonight is an honor for me and for my parish. The first time tonight I'm coming and addressing and praying with these elected members. I know it's a tough time for the politicians. We always try to finger at them, their small mistakes. But it's our duty to pray for them, so the good God may grant them the wisdom and knowledge, all the graces they need so that they can lead all the people in doing right things into our town. So please pray for them. And so we pray. God of power and might, wisdom and justice, through your authority is rightly administered. Laws are enacted and judgment is decreed. Assist with your spirit of counsel and fortitude. I elected Supervisor Mr. Joseph Saladino and the other elected councilmen and women. May they always seek the ways of righteousness, justice, and mercy. Grant that they may be enabled by your powerful protection to lead our town with honesty and integrity. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Father. And to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, Eagle Scout candidate Peter Rowan. Peter, would you please step forward?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Thank you, Peter. And Peter, I asked you to stay with us because we will be, you can have a seat in front, but we'll be including you in a very special presentation, and we really appreciate you being with us this evening. Since our last town board meeting on November 14th, much has occurred in our town as we continue to work diligently to cut costs in our town and move forward with the sweeping ethics reforms that have been promised. As pledged several months ago, the town of Oyster Bay will move forward with its implementation of an Inspector General's office. While the funding was included in our 2018 adopted budget, we must now move forward with a local law to officially create the position. The Town Attorney's Office and the Department of Human Resources continue to discuss and review the requested technical charges to the proposed law so that we develop the position in the right way and, quite frankly, the best way to get the job done. We expect an amended law will be proposed in the very near future. I look forward to becoming, along with my colleagues on the town board, to becoming the very first municipality on Long Island to create the office of Inspector General. This new town board and I are also proud to continue to clean up government. We're working diligently to clean up not only our government here in Oyster Bay, but our local communities and neighborhoods. Earlier today, on this very day, Councilman Imbrodo, Councilman Tom Hand, Councilwoman Johnson, and our town clerk, James Altadonna Jr., join me as we move forward with the demolition of 2 zombie homes in Locust Valley. And I will tell you, it was quite a thrill to get behind the controls of that heavy equipment and knock those houses down. It certainly ended a blight in the neighborhood, in one particular neighborhood, this time Locust Valley. The Department of Planning and Development had declared both houses an imminent danger to the safety and welfare of our residents in the surrounding neighborhood, and therefore gave us the right by code to do so. While Locust Valley neighbors referred to these actions as the miracle on 13th Street, this new level of enforcement will no longer be a surprise as we bring it to each and every community in the town of Oyster Bay. We're very serious about that, and that's why we created the new Quality of Life Task Force, as efforts have been made and will continue to be made in other communities, including the very historic and beloved East Massapequa. There have been numbers of homes for a variety of reasons, including the 2 hurricanes, that mandate that we must clean up. And these sites are next in our crosshairs to ensure that we make the living experience and the quality of life much better. And I know we have residents of this beloved community here today, again with us, and we are here to assure you that we're dropping the throttles and moving forward on getting these sites cleaned up and using a little more complicated with these particular sites in terms of ownership and our rights based on the code. But we are putting all of our efforts, and we have the support of all of our town board members and our town clerk, James Altadonna, who has also been working diligently with us. And I want to thank our building department. I see we have our commissioner, Leslie Macarone, here. I want to thank the town attorney's office and all of the resources of this town, because we will clean up these sites, and we know it's what the residents want, and we know it's the right thing to do. Our task force members have been continuing to work diligently to address so many of these sites. And while I didn't name it by name, but sites on Clocks Boulevard, for instance, as a high priority. Through the use of a $350,000 state grant that we obtained earlier this year, the task force is working towards strengthening the town code to address and cure the problem of zombie houses, and to get a better hold on the lending institutions who are responsible for maintenance and repair of these vacant eyesores. Recommendations from the task force will be made to this board, and then we will be adopting changes to the town code to strengthen our ability to rectify this problem. Today, the board will continue 2 workforce reduction measures. We will be presenting an early retirement incentive and a voluntary separation incentive. Both programs will increase efficiency in the town while returning long-term savings to our taxpayers. I'm very proud of this program, as well as the many programs that we are and will be putting in place in an effort to improve the overall quality of services, improve the quality of life for our town residents, and to lower costs to our taxpayers. This continues to be among our very highest priorities. Before moving to today's calendar, we have some presentations. And then after those presentations, we do have to break for an executive session where our counsel has to inform us on a particular issue. So I apologize for the wait for our hearings, but that's the most efficient way to handle that matter. I want to remind residents we're continuing to reach out for the use of our $10 million New York State Downtown Revitalization Initiative grant awarded to the town for the revitalization in downtown Hicksville. Again, this is extremely exciting, and this will bring beautiful new life to downtown Hicksville and be the model for the rest of the state of New York. In other news, I remind residents that Councilwoman Alessia and Councilman Tony McEnone are co-chairing our Toys for Tots Holiday Collection Drive. Residents can donate an unwrapped toy for a girl or a boy, and please don't forget teenagers. That's an area of high demand as well. They can donate them at town facilities, including Town Hall North, Town Hall South, and at the Ice Skating Center in Bethpage. And residents here or watching or live stream can get more information by calling 516-624-6619. I want to again thank Councilman Tony McEnone and thank Councilwoman Rebecca Alessia, who understands the joy of a little one at holiday time. And while he doesn't know it, the person who runs the Toys for Tots asked me to make a presentation. They had their kickoff just a couple of weeks ago, and I attended. And they asked me to make a presentation to Councilman Anthony McEnone. Tony has been a great force with Toys for Tots, as well as an organization that is very near and dear to his heart, and that is our Carpenters Union on Long Island. And Councilman McEnone, I've been asked by Major Chuck Kilbride and all of the people at the United States Marine Corps Toys for Tots program to make this presentation to you. It's presented to the Honorable Anthony D. McEnone, Honorary Vice Chairman, a kind person who shares. And this is presented by all the chairs and Major of the United States Marine Corps, Charles Kilbride, to say thank you to you for all of your efforts for Toys for Tots on the local town level. Again, thank you, Rebecca, the councilwoman, and all of the town board members. But a special thanks goes out to the public, because it's your donations, your generosity that makes our town shine. Councilman, I want to thank you for your leadership, and thank you on behalf of all the needy children. On the subject of giving, we have a very generous young man who has also, much like Councilman McEnone, has displayed tremendous leadership. The level of leadership that all of us, of all ages, should emulate. This evening, the Oyster Bay Town Board is proud to honor the community contributions and exemplary actions of a local Eagle Scout candidate named Peter Rowan of Troop 656. Peter is the son of a Nassau County police detective, and he noticed that a memorial at Anchor Park in Massapequa, which is a town of Oyster Bay Park, honoring fallen Nassau County police officer Gary Farley, was in need of renovation. He decided to make this endeavor his Eagle Scout project. Officer Farley, who was extremely well respected by his colleagues and by the community, died in a tragic line of duty incident following an altercation in Massapequa back in 1993. He left behind his wife and 2 loving children. So this important project came to fruition on November 12th with a heartfelt unveiling ceremony that included many scouts, police officers, members of the community, as well as many leaders, including Nassau County Police Commissioner Patrick Ryder and the president of the Nassau County PBA, James McDermott. Police Officer Farley was a true American hero, and you knew that. You recognized that, and you showed leadership in your project from your heart. It was a very big scale project, one of the larger projects I've seen undertaken by an Eagle Scout. Officer Farley was loved and respected by the residents of Massapequa and was a true credit to the Nassau County Police Department. Thanks to the efforts of Peter Rowan and his other troop members, this newly restored memorial in the community where Officer Farley served for many years will forever stand as a reminder to the residents of his sacrifice and his extraordinary life. Again, we commend the efforts of Boy Scout Peter Rowan, and we are joined here this evening by Peter's mom, Barbara, and his dad, Nassau County Police Detective Christopher Rowan. May God bless the Rowan family, the Farley family, and every member of law enforcement, as well as our emergency responders. You put your lives and safety on the line each and every day for the rest of us, and we owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude. And we owe that to Peter, too, for your leadership. You have truly had a positive impact on many in our community. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask all of the town board members to join with Peter, and I'm going to ask a resident of the Massapequas, Councilman Tom Hand, to make the presentation to Peter. Many of us are scouts, and our receiver of taxes, Mr. Jim Stefanich, was a scout leader, and one of his scouts is standing right here in Lewin Brodo.
Jim was my scoutmaster in Troop 13.
A few more badges, and he'll be up for his Eagle Scout.
Supervisor, before you continue, I just want to recognize that we have members of Troop 176 from Bayville here working on their citizenship in the community badge, as well as I see a bunch of seniors that I know, seniors in high school, that I think are working on a requirement for some sort of history or social studies class. So welcome, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Councilwoman. It's always a pleasure to have the youth of our community here. They set such a great example for the rest of us, quite frankly, and Peter does set a wonderful example for all of our youth. So thank you for all of you being here. We appreciate your activity, and we know that, and please know that you'll always get the support of this town board, and obviously of our Councilwoman. So, Peter, you did a great job to honor someone in law enforcement, an emergency responder. Well, we're going to continue to recognize emergency responders this evening in light of your actions, because we're going to announce and introduce and swear in a very special team that will help us throughout the town. This evening, we're joined by the members of the newly formed Oyster Bay Townwide Fire Service Council. Over the last several months, we've made it a priority to improve communication and meet with our local fire districts and departments in an effort to ensure that we are all on the same page, that we are sharing services, and as a result of those meetings, we have decided to form this diversified and experienced committee known as the Oyster Bay Townwide Fire Service Council. The council's mission is to foster cohesion between the town of Oyster Bay and its volunteer fire departments and personnel, to collectively communicate, to share resources, to develop procedures, all in an effort to provide a safe environment for our residents, to assist with fire services, and to recognize there are savings and there is a quality of services by joining forces, as well as to keep on the forefront the needs that fire service members have in protecting our communities. The council will also communicate closely with the town's Department of Planning and Development with respect to unsafe buildings and also to the design of new structures that may require a certain design or fire service equipment. The three co-chairs of the council, and please stand as I call out your name, are Ralph Raymond of the North Massapequa Fire Department, Commissioner; Justin McCaffrey, Commissioner of the Massapequa Fire Department; Frank Sammartano, Commissioner of the Jericho Fire Department; North Massapequa Fire Department Chief Frederick Ferrara; Commissioner of the Massapequa Fire Department Joseph Giordano; Bethpage Fire Department Chief John Castles; Hicksville Commissioner Tony Wigdaniski; Hicksville Commissioner Michael Azu; the former chief of the Oyster Bay Fire Department, Vinny Bellissimo; current chief of the Oyster Bay Fire Department, Frank Mantigari; the commissioner of the Syosset Fire Department, Giovanni Graceffa; the former chief of the South Farmingdale Fire Department, Paul Kunkel Sr., and former commissioner of the Plainview Fire Department, Bruce Goldblatt. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them an applause of thanks for all their service. We thank the dedicated members of the Oyster Bay Townwide Fire Service Council for your service to the community and to this committee, and we look forward to working closely with you. If you'll all stand forward and turn around, we'll swear you in all together. If you would please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. To uphold the Constitution. Of the United States of America. The Constitution. Of the State of New York. And the bylaws. Of the Town of Oyster Bay. As well as. The bylaws and operating procedures. As set forth. By the Town of Oyster Bay Town Board. And I further swear. To carry out the duties. As members of. The Oyster Bay. Townwide. Fire Services Council. To the best of my abilities. So help me God. Thank you and congratulations. Obviously, my congratulations are on behalf of the entire town board, all of our officials, our town government, and the family of residents of this town. Our fire services will improve, will create more efficiencies, and listening to you and implementing your good advice and experience will clearly improve the safety of our residents. Thank you. Let's give them another big round. Okay, next we're going to open up our town board meeting officially. And will Town Clerk James Altadonna please call the roll?
Sure. Supervisor Saladino.
Present?
Councilman Muscarella.
Here.
Councilman McEnone.
Here.
Councilwoman Alessia.
Here, good evening.
Good evening. Councilwoman Johnson.
Here.
Councilman Imbrodo.
Present.
And Councilman Hand.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to ask for, and I apologize, I know you're all waiting for the hearings and for other issues, but we do have to break for executive session, so may I have a motion?
Supervisor, I'll make a motion that this town board go into executive session for the purpose of discussions regarding proposed, pending, and current litigation.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We thank you for your patience. It's going to take us at least 20 minutes, but we appreciate your patience, and we'll be back out as quickly as we can. May I have a motion to end the executive session?
Supervisor, I move to end the executive session. No action has been taken.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay. The ayes have it. Will the town clerk please call the first hearing? I thank you, everyone, for their patience while we adhered to the open meetings law and all the business of the day that had to be conducted. I thank you.
A hearing which is the first local law to consider a local law retirement incentive program for eligible employees of the town of Oyster Bay.
Please state your presence.
Yes, of course. Good afternoon, or good evening, rather, Supervisor, members of the board.
Cover them all.
We've been here all day. The hearing today is to present a proposed local law which would authorize a retirement incentive program for those employees who are otherwise or are in fact eligible to retire under New York State retirement system guidelines, which effectively means that the employee is 55 years or older. We've run this program in the past. This is in large part a continuation of the town's prior efforts to reduce its workforce by encouraging retirement where appropriate, with one additional feature that I'll discuss in a moment. The general contours, however, of the local retirement incentive would be for anyone who is becoming eligible, first eligible to retire under New York State guidelines, can take the incentive and would be entitled to a payout of $1,000 per completed year of service, in addition to which they would receive health benefits for their life, and their family members would receive as well health benefits during the retiree's lifetime.
Only those eligible under the state health benefits program.
If you are eligible to retire and you take this retirement incentive, you would receive your health benefits.
I meant in terms of family members. It's not to everyone. It's those who fall under the criteria.
Well, the local law provides that the family would receive the benefit as well, regardless of whether you're falling into the new first qualified or first eligible or were previously eligible to retire. The difference being that if you were previously eligible to retire, could have taken one of the town's incentives over the last few years, you'll be receiving a retirement incentive payout of $500 per year of completed service plus the health benefits. That was how the program worked over the last few years. We've now written into the proposed ordinance a waiver feature that would allow any employee who is also going to become first eligible to retire in calendar year 2018 to take this incentive, provided that they provide to the town an irrevocable letter of separation from the town, which states a date certain by which they will actually come off the payroll, which is in fact 1 month after they become first eligible. So let me give an example. Let's say you have an employee who is not going to be eligible within the close of this calendar year, but will become first eligible to retire, say in August of 2018. The time restrictions in this local law can be waived so that that employee can provide the town an irrevocable letter of separation, and they would then be able to take the benefits of this local law, which would mean $1,000 per year plus health benefits for the retiree's life. And that is effectively the nature of this retirement incentive. As I mentioned, it's consistent with what the town has done in the past in its attempts to reduce the workforce, with the added layer of the waiver that would capture those employees who become first eligible throughout calendar year 2018. I should note that there are some time frames, and employees who are interested in this should pay close attention, because you'll need to state your intentions close to the end of this calendar year. I believe it's by December 27th or so. And so if the board has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, that will conclude my presentation with respect to the retirement incentive.
Are there any questions? No. One question.
Sure, go ahead.
Obviously, this is similar or identical. Can you speak to how this legislation is similar or identical to what the town has proposed in the past, what other municipalities propose and what other municipalities have passed.
Yeah, Supervisor, it's certainly consistent with what the town has done in the past several years, namely that first eligible employees would be entitled to the $1,000 per year of completed service, plus your health benefits. And I do believe that other municipalities, other local governments, including perhaps the County of Nassau, have employed a similar structure in their efforts to reduce the workforce as well.
Matt, excuse me.
Yes.
Our only caveat we put on is that we're not going to address this again another 6 months, like we did last year.
In fact, this year, so about 6 months ago, I was before the board and we were talking about an incentive, but we had realized that there might be a better way to do this. I'm not aware, of any effort to talk about this again. I mean, this is what's on the table right now.
We're going to end it finally.
This is good for the whole year of 2018, that's what I'm saying.
Well, it covers the period, anyone becoming first eligible, between August 1 of 2017 through the close of this year, plus anyone who would become first eligible in 2018.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Of course.
No other questions? Thank you. Are there any speakers on this? Yes, Mr. McKenna, come forward, please.
Good evening, newly elected town board. I congratulate you all.
Thank you.
A thought just came. The current budget, does the current budget take into account an anticipated reduction based upon this program?
We can bring up our budget director, but for hearings, it's a little different than the public comment. For the hearings, it's a time period by which the public addresses us and we listen to the public's comments.
So, all right, so that's fine. And the other comment I want to make is that I don't even know whether this is possible, but let's just say that you have somebody who works for the town that is currently being questioned by law enforcement, whoever that might be, and or they know that they're a target of an investigation. Is there any way to put, I'm not asking you a question, I would ask if there's a way to make it so that if somebody is, I realize you're innocent till proven guilty, but if, say, 6 months down the road, they become convicted of some type of corruption that they did within the town, is there a way to prevent them from being carried on health insurance for the remainder of their, however long they get the health insurance? That's just the point that I want to make.
Okay,
Something
we'll
to think about.
consult with our attorneys on that.
It could be a way to deter someone from thinking about doing something wrong. You know, that's why I bring it up.
Okay. On that note, I've already supported legislation in Albany to strip the pensions from those elected officials found guilty of crimes against municipality. Are there any other speakers on this hearing? Being none, is there correspondence?
We have affidavits of postings and publications. There is no other correspondence.
May I have a motion?
Supervisor, I make a motion that this public hearing be closed and the decision be voted on tonight.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
You want me to call the roll?
Yes, certainly. That's fine.
Supervisor Saladino?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Councilman McEnroe?
Aye.
Councilwoman Alessia? She go.
Stepped out for a moment. Please continue.
Councilwoman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilman Imbrodo? Aye. And Councilman Hand?
Aye.
Motion passes with 6 ayes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Would you please call our next hearing?
Yep. Hearing local law number 2 to consider the proposed local law for a voluntary separation incentive program for eligible employees of the town of Oyster Bay.
And good evening, Supervisor, from the Office of the Town Attorney, Deputy Town Attorney Matthew Rose. Okay, now this program that's in front of the board is new to the town. This is a voluntary separation program. that would allow a full-time employee who was employed by the town prior to January 1 of 2016, if they so choose, to separate from their service with the town, the incentive being a $1,000 per year of completed service separation payout. Under this program, the employee would not receive the benefits of health insurance for the duration of their life, and of course for the family during the duration of the retiree's life, as was the case in the first program that was just presented. But similar to the first program, anyone intending to take the benefits of the voluntary separation program would need to provide an irrevocable letter of resignation from the town, and under that case, they would need to separate from service with the town, close of business January 31, 2018. So it's more short term, but again, similar to that, the first program, there is a deferral provision within the local law that an employee can affirmatively state to the town that they intend to seek the benefits of the separation, that they're going to submit a letter of resignation, but that for governmental reasons, namely the continuity of service, which would be at the supervisor's discretion as written in this law, it would be in the best interest of the town that that employee be permitted to continue in the service and in the employ of the town through a date that would be specified in the letter of resignation. Let's give an example just so that it clears up the picture for everyone. Let's say that there is an employee with a particular skill set, a particular task that they provide or that they carry out for the town. There may be a case that there may be a case in which we can't have a replacement employee, perhaps at a lower pay rate, in place to carry out the same function prior to January 31. 2018. And so it would not be in the town's best interest to see that employee separate from the town, because we could, in fact, see a reduction in service. And so what the local law allows is for the supervisor to defer the participation in the separation for the governmental reason that we don't want to hinder government services, so that a replacement, if necessary, can be found, or a replacement from the existing ranks can be trained, brought up to speed, and then rotated into the service so that there is no lapse in service as provided to the residents. That's effectively the contours of this program.
It's an open-ended time period?
No, again, an employee will have to state their intentions by December 31 of this year. They would need to separate from service by January 31st of 2018 unless that deferral was granted.
But how long would the deferral be? It has to be.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There has to be a time set on that. It just can't be in perpetuity.
That's correct. And up to 12 months. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, up to 12 months.
Thank you.
So I guess you could have a scenario where, yeah, it would be effectively through the close of business New Year's Eve 2018.
Thank you.
So for the purposes of the public's understanding of what we're attempting to do, in the first scenario, it's employees who are eligible to retire. They've
Correct.
reached retirement age, they have the number of years in required, but since there are others who are not yet eligible, and yet we want to give as many incentives as possible to reduce the workforce, to save taxpayer dollars, to bring better efficiencies in the town, we have this second program. So in layman's terms, so the public viewing at home or here in our boardroom can fully understand this, a few scenarios. Why don't you give us some scenarios of an employee who might want to take advantage of this second incentive?
Let's say there's a middle-aged employee who's not 55 or near 55, who perhaps for his or her own personal reasons decides they're no longer interested in working for the town. Maybe they found a different opportunity. Maybe their interests have changed. They can take this opportunity so long as they were employed prior to January 1 of 2016 in a full-time capacity, and receive the separation incentive of $1,000 and part ways with the town. Again, the first program was directed at those employees who were 55 or will be turning 55 in the near term. This program is directed at those who are not of retirement age, but who otherwise, for their own reasons, decide that town service is no longer of interest to them.
Someone might want to take a job in the private sector.
Of course.
Someone might want to move on to another responsibility. So once we have paid them that incentive amount, they no longer cost the taxpayers any money.
Well, not only do they, that's correct, yes, in short, but there's no salary, there's no pension contribution, there's no health care benefit contribution. So yes, effectively it comes off the balance sheet for the town.
They're saving all of those costs, as you stated. We're not paying them a salary any longer. We're not paying their pension costs. We're not paying anything toward their health insurance.
That's right. Once the separation takes place, meaning the incentive payout plus their accrued time, which employees are entitled to as a part of the collective bargaining agreement, the relationship is terminated, they're separated from service and off payroll and off the rolls.
Thank you.
Of course.
The questions?
Yes, Matthew.
Go ahead.
We're not going to be bringing these, we're not planning on bringing these people back as consultants or anything else.
Certainly not to my knowledge. And the supervisor's shaking his head no, so.
Okay, I like that putting in there. If we
Yep,
could,
yes.
Please.
For clarity, no, we are not.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to ask Mr. D'Arienzo to step forward, please, for a quick question as to the motivation of these programs. Would you please state your presence?
Good evening. I'm Rob D'Arienzo, Director of Finance.
We've had conversations about the motivation to do these programs and impetus in terms of cost savings. Can you speak to us in general terms? We don't know the number of people who would take advantage of this program. And in the second case, just about anyone in the town, any employee, full-time employee in the town could take advantage of this. But just speak to us in terms of the motivation and cost savings to our taxpayers.
Yeah, absolutely. As Matt mentioned, anyone who turns 55 is technically eligible to retire under New York State law. But a better group to look at would be those who are 55 years of age with 30 years of service, or 62 years of age with 20 years of service. In those two scenarios, you're talking about employees who would not receive any penalty under the retirement system. So those are those who tend to leave. And we've earmarked 68 employees who would be eligible to retire with the 55 and 30 or 62 and 20 between now and the end of next year. Those 68 employees' total salaries is roughly $6.8 million, or $100,000 per person.
Plus health benefits.
Yeah.
No, that's
No,
included.
That's included?
But the health benefits wouldn't go away if they
And the
retired.
pension contributions.
Their estimated payout, incentive payout, plus their sick and vacation is an amount of less than $6 million. So in 2018 alone, we would save roughly $900,000 if every one of these 68 employees left. In 2019 and beyond, we'd save $6.8 million, plus the FICA, plus the retirement system, and not plus the medical, because the medical they would still get. So the immediate savings in 2018, including the payouts, would be roughly $1 million, and we'd save untold millions the years after, assuming we don't hire back the same number of employees.
And in the second scenario where we're not providing them health benefits, of course, that savings is even greater because we're saving money on the cost of the health benefits.
That's correct. I have no, I wouldn't even hazard a guess as to how many employees will take the voluntary separation, but that's a home run. Anyone that does is a home run in terms of savings for the town.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Anyone have any questions before Mr. D'Arienzo takes a seat? Okay. Come on up.
Arthur Edelman, Seacliff, New York. My one question is with the incentive program. We've all heard about how certain employees try to work overtime in their last 2 years prior to retirement to up their base for their pension. Would this incentive, if a guy is getting 20 years at $20,000, is that included in his last year of employment, and therefore bumping up his pension and our obligation to keep on paying forever?
Well, most of the employees in the town aren't getting that overtime. There are specific employees under specific conditions that get overtime as per the contract.
Right, no, I'm talking about if someone's getting paid $100,000 and they get a $20,000 bump as an incentive to retire.
The answer to your question is they won't be getting that bump.
To add it to their pension base.
We would have to follow all of the state laws. Most of those things are mandated by state law, so we have to follow the state law.
I agree, but my feeling is the state
We have
probably
control.
dictates, not in our favor, but in the workers' favor.
So that's where, I'm sorry,
Let
Councilman?
Rob. Rob, you want to address that?
Try to run away.
Yeah, it's going to be a no.
To answer the gentleman's question, I believe you're asking if the retirement incentive payout would count towards their final average salary, and it does not.
Okay. Good.
Thank you. Are there anyone else who would like to be heard on this hearing? Being that there are none, is there correspondence?
We have affidavits of postings and publications. There is no other correspondence.
May I have a motion?
Supervisor, I'll make a motion that this public hearing be closed and the decision be voted on tonight.
Second.
Okay. Supervisor Saladino?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Councilman McEnroe?
Aye.
Councilwoman Alessio?
Aye.
Councilwoman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilman Ambroto?
Aye.
And Councilman Hand?
Aye.
Councilwoman Alessio, you were absent for the first vote.
I, as to voting on it tonight, yes.
Okay.
Vote was for, right?
Yes.
Yes, you
Yes.
marked me down for aye.
Aye. Let the record reflect. Thank you. Regular action calendars?
Yes, please. Would you call the regular action calendar?
May I have a motion to suspend the rules and add the following walk-on resolution number 798, 2017, which is a resolution relating to, hold on. Ask for a vote on the decisions. Okay.
You need a copy of it?
I'm sorry?
You need a copy?
No. I have that. We have to add at the end resolutions number 801 and 802. So let me do that now.
The decisions. Those are the decisions.
They're the decisions for the local laws that we
Correct.
just did. Okay? So let me just add that right now before we continue. May I have a motion to suspend the rules and add the following walk-on resolution 798, 2017. Now, this is just to add it, which is a resolution relating to the memorandum of agreement and understanding between the town and the CSEA in connection with the amendment to clarify the provisions regarding the employment week. Okay. This is just to add it, not to vote on it.
Okay, but can we have something in writing on 801 and 802, please?
801 and 802
Well,
are...
Right,
Okay.
there's nothing in writing here saying we're voting on it. I have no documentation.
It's the, you just vote, it's the retirement incentive.
We have no documentation, James, saying that
Okay.
we're voting on this.
Okay.
I would
There's
like
no
something in
resolution.
writing.
All right, I'll read it into the record.
I would like something in writing, please.
Okay. Town attorney? Yeah, and then I'll read it into the record. Okay.
Yeah, just to be clear, the motion was to vote on it this evening.
I understand, Matthew.
Okay.
I'd like to have it in
Want
writing.
the physical
Okay.
copy, sure.
Let's provide him that. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion on the table, which is what I just read for 798.
Would you like that before we take the vote?
Okay. No. Yeah, before we vote. You're going to move all the resolutions?
Yes. And then at the end, I'll read those.
Move
Okay?
all the resolutions and I'll...
That's what I'm trying to do. So I have a motion on the table to suspend the rules and add the following walk on 798.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. On the vote, Supervisor Saladino,
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella,
Aye.
Councilman McEnroe,
Aye.
Councilwoman Alessio,
Aye.
Councilwoman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Ambroto,
Aye.
and Councilman Hand.
Aye.
Motion to suspend the rules passes with 7 ayes. Now I have a motion to resuspend the rules and add the following walk-on resolutions 799 and 800. 799 is a resolution authorizing the expansion of youth hockey programs by adding a middle school hockey program and youth hockey clinic program to the fall, winter, spring, summer youth hockey schedule. Resolution number 800 is a resolution authorizing the first one-year renewal and amendment to the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program from January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018. Like a motion on that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Muscarella, second by Councilman McEnroe.
On the vote?
On the vote, Supervisor Saladino.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilman McEnroe.
Aye.
Councilwoman Alessia.
Aye.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Umberto.
Aye.
And Councilman Han.
Aye.
Motion to resuspend the rules and add resolutions 799 and 800 passes with 7 ayes. Now we're going to go to the regular action calendar, and I will read as soon as I get it on 801 and 802.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I want documentation.
No, I understand. I agree. May I have a motion to adopt resolutions number TF 18-17 through 802 on the motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
To
motion-
800, excuse me.
No, it's through 802, but I'm going to read it into, we're going to vote separately on 801 and 802. Okay? Do you want to make it separate? All right, let's just make it 800. Okay, may I have a motion to adopt resolutions TF 1817 through 800?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
And thank you for indulging me.
you're welcome. Motion made by Councilor Muscarella, seconded by Councilor McEnroe. Okay, now we have various
vote?
speakers.
Vote.
Okay.
We're not going to vote on it till everybody
Do we-
speaks.
Our
and everything is
speakers,
read into the
and
minutes.
it looks like we have 3
Come on.
speakers. Our first is Kevin McKenna.
Okay, Kevin McKenna again, Syosset, New York. I want to start with 782.
Would you just kindly give us your address as well, Mr. McKenna?
Edna Drive, Syosset, New York. 782. First, would like to ask the board if you've had enough time to understand this resolution. Because I really want to prevent, and I'm sure all the taxpayers and all of you as well would want to prevent something from happening again like the Sing loans. I really, really urge you to seriously consider, if need be, postponing a vote on this resolution. For those who don't, this has actually been a project that's been going on for a few years. And the work, according to the paperwork, this is for the installation of generators at Town Hall North.
Thank you.
Can you stop the clock, please? I have the article here from Newsday by Joy Brown, who's very, very credible, and it talks about how the town board in the Sing loan situation was not given all the information. And had you been given all the information, we might not be in the situation that we're in today.
Mr. McKenna,
Yes.
I just want to, if you need to pause it, that's fine. I just want to answer. Your question was, did we have enough time as board members to read and review it? I had a specific question on this as well, and I did speak to the deputy supervisor on it last night. Because I think I shared a similar concern with you where I was saying, well, this looks to me a little bit familiar. What he explained to me is that this is on work that was previously done. This is payment for work that we are not renewing, not entering to a new
No, that's
contract, and not assigning new work to these firms.
I understand that.
Yes, okay. Okay, continue.
Thank you. It is for work that was previously done. Before I get to what I think is a legal issue, the resolution is to take $77,000 that should have been paid last year. It should have been paid to Nassau Suffolk Realty last year. Why it wasn't, I'm not even asking why it wasn't. I'm sure there's a lot of bills that weren't paid last year. But first off, and I wanted to just ask Councilman McAgnone, being that I was talking to some people today, and they pointed out that you have a lot of expertise in the construction field, and this is a engineering and labor open-ended contract, and basically that $77,000 is mainly for labor, supervision, so on and so forth. Right? I'm sure that you would agree that people working for days on end on a project like this are required to sign timesheets.
It's supposed to be certified payroll.
And
I'm
right.
sure, I see Commissioner Lenz in the audience. Are we receiving these? Are we receiving certified payrolls?
Absolutely, yes.
And timesheets to go along with these bills?
Yes.
I would urge the board to view those timesheets and see if those timesheets reflect the work that was really needed to go in to supervise this project. I would urge the board to do that.
Commissioner Lenz, excuse me. Stop his time.
And being that this is...
Copies of those timesheets, please. Or I'll stop in your office and view them.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And being that this project has been dragging on for so long, I don't think that there's any rush to vote on this tonight until you all see the timesheets. And I think that you'd be doing the town the right thing by taking a look at it. The second issue is that being that this should have been paid last year to Nassau Suffolk Engineering, how can you reassign? I understand that this money, you're not taking new money. You're taking money that should have been paid and you're moving it to another company, to a company that is not the company that did the work last year. That could be illegal. All right? Because even though both companies are owned by the same individual, they're still corporations. And Cashin Spinelli did not have those timesheets that you're going to see, I don't think, signed. Nassau Suffolk Realty did.
Nassau Suffolk.
Nassau Suffolk Engineering.
Commissioner Lenz, did we get permission from the subcontract out?
What-
I know you weren't the commissioner.
Why don't we bring him up after?
Okay.
After Mr.
All right, you got
McKenna. Mr. McKenna, why don't you finish up with your time?
I have
Then
10
we'll
minutes.
bring
How much time do I have left?
4 minutes and
Okay.
12. Here, how about this?
You know, you go to town. I went to the town of Hempstead the other day. They have the big clock there, right? It's nice, very modern over there.
We don't have their budget.
Plus, they have a lot more pains in the butt like me there. A lot more. 782 is done. But I just want to. This is a very confusing matter, and it shouldn't just be just vote on it. Assume that. You have these contracts. What do they call requirements contracts? Where you approve, in this case, $280-something thousand. I hope that the town is not continuing to go that route, because if you pick a number in the beginning, it's very easy for somebody to send you a letter and say, "Oh, do me a favor, write me a check for $77,000 because that's the remainder of what you approved about 2 years ago." Isn't that coincidental? You really have to prove that and understand what this $77,000 is made up of. It's a lot of money to supervise a generator installation. and then to go pay a company that didn't even do the work is something that's really questionable. And I just want to go on the record with this. Real quick, on the union contract, since it seems that in the last paragraph you're concerned about legalities, about the authorization of the signatures, I would suggest that, and I know it's probably not a final document, but there's no typed names below the signatures where if you ever needed to know who signed this, it doesn't have printed names below the signatures. And on 767, which is the waiver of procurement requirements for the, I think it's a $30-something thousand software program. I know that the town attorney approved, I know the town attorney said that that you've met the bidding requirement, the procurement policy, but for some reason, Mr. Samatano was only able to get one bid. And apparently there's a letter that you were not provided dated October 26, 2017. And I would urge you to see what that letter says as to why he was only able to get one bid before you vote on this. Thank you very much.
Stephen, would you please come up here? In regard to the previous speaker's suggestion.
Yep. So my name is Stephen Delegati. I'm Department of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Thank you.
In regards to draft resolution 767, we had written a letter to the town attorney's office asking for the waiver of the procurement policy. We had posted this request for proposals in Newsday. We had also sent this electronically out to over 35 different business members and people in the community that work in this sort of field. And we had also did direct mailings to 5 companies we had worked with in the past. So that we felt, as well as posting it on the town website and as well as posting it on our Workforce Development Board website. So when we wrote the letter to the town attorney's office, we had explained that to them, and thus the waiver was granted.
Were all procedures followed as per state law and as per town code?
Yes, they were.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Mr. Delegati.
Yes.
These extensions, who's going to be approving the extensions if we so choose?
The extensions would be approved by the town board.
By the town board?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
No, we're good.
Thank you. Would Commissioner Lenz please step forward? You heard the items brought up by the previous speaker. Could you please tell the board and the public as to the actual realities and the truth in this situation?
Sure. This work was done, I believe it was almost 2 years ago. The reason why I'm taking care of this now is this has been put up a couple of times and was never voted on. I found that there was needed to be corrected. What's happening
Excuse
is...
me, for what needed to be corrected?
They haven't been paid for about 1.5 years.
Work already performed.
For work already performed. What had happened is there is 2 firms, like was stated, Nassau Suffolk and Spinelli and Cash and Spinelli Ferretti. They're separate companies, even though they're owned by the same people, but they're separate companies. So I could not write a check, let's say, or the town for CSF. it had to be approved by the town board, and we're taking the money that was originally set aside for Nassau Suffolk and paying Cassius Smelly Ferretti for their work under this proposal here. Now, what happens is when the consultant submits a claim, that claim is reviewed, and as Councilman McEnone had stated, it has a certified payroll on it, has the number of hours that each person worked on it, and then it's reviewed by several people in my office before it's approved. And then once it was reviewed, then I brought it to the town board's attention.
So both you and other members of your staff separately reviewed all the documentation?
Yes.
Did you find it to be all accurate? Did you find it to make sense? Did you find it, talk to us in terms of what assurances you can give the town board and the public that these payments are rightful, are legal, and appropriate?
Yes. As I say, there's a clerk that actually reviews all the claims for me, adds everything up. Then it also goes to engineering. They also review it for, make sure that determine that the work was done to satisfaction. In this particular case, this work was actually done for general services, so it also had to be approved by general services, the funding for this and also the payment for this. So I had to go before them also to ask for approval. So that's what I'm saying. There's many people that looked at this before I'm presenting it to the town board.
Excuse me, Commissioner?
Sure.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, please go ahead.
So, as I stated before, when I read this,
Yes.
it raised curiosity to me, and I'm trying very hard to look forward and not look backward at things.
No
But
problem.
one of the things that it just calls to my attention is that it is two entities owned by the same proprietor,
Right.
and one is awarding the other one subcontracting work, subconsulting work.
Right.
And I just am hoping that in the future, and I know that this is something that the supervisor is invested in, is improving on these contracting procedures. I would like to see maybe not doing that and not having a vendor use his own subconsulting firm on the same contract.
100%, that's normally the way it does work. In this particular case, I did check with their attorney for the two firms, and it's the way they're reading the way the corporations were set up, that they cannot pass money from one corporation to the other. That's why I needed to separate it out and make it a sub to the other corporation.
I understand it, but if we don't use ones that are, then we just
Understand.
avoid the situation.
Understand.
And
And
I know you weren't.
Right.
So.
But that's a very good point, and we don't normally have ever done that before. You're right.
And you weren't there to approve it because it was approved well before your tenure. But as Councilwoman Alessia said, in the future, we're going to look to avoid this kind of situation?
Absolutely. Definitely.
So just to review,
Yes.
have all of the processes met the law and the town code?
Yes, they have.
Has everything been reviewed by separate eyes, separate personnel from separate departments
Yes,
in a duplicative manner?
absolutely.
And has all of this information been found to be accurate?
Yes, and that's the reason why it took so long to get it before the town board, because again, this happened before I was the commissioner. I didn't quite understand what they were doing. As I say, I needed to talk to their attorney and find out why we were going with two separate firms, why one couldn't pass the funding on to the other. And that's why this is presented this way. And as I say, I also had to talk to General Services because this work was done for General Services through my engineering department, and that's why I had to talk also to engineering. So it's several multi-layers of people that had to review this before it came before you people.
So as a licensed professional engineer,
Yes.
and as a government administrator working in engineering and public works for decades, have you found this to be 100% ethical, proper, and legal?
Yes, and then also there was another professional engineer that also reviewed it before I got it. So I'm just saying, so there's two professional engineers who've been in the business for quite a few years that are also concurring that this is factual and needs to be paid.
Including this full amount is owed?
Yes, absolutely.
Commissioner, you have seen the certified payroll?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All of them, not just some.
No. I've seen it all I always see them all, but in this particular case, this is abnormal, and I did review it with extra care and then sent it up to different peoples for viewing and concurrence.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We like the young Frankenstein reference, by the way. Good job.
Our next speaker will be Eva Pearson. Good evening, Ms. Pearson.
Good evening, Supervisor. My name is Eva Pearson. I live 426 Staples Street in Farmingdale. I have two resolutions I wanted to ask about, and I'll start in reverse order with 795, which is about a topographic survey for the former Liberty site. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the site adjacent to Allen Park, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I live quite close to this, so this is of interest to me. And I had looked back today over the history of sort of that site, and let's see, I know there was some legal action going on, and forgive me because I'm not a lawyer, so I look forward to having this clarified. But I know back on October 10th, you all had announced that there was going to be improvements to the park at the Liberty site. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. However, this site, according to the Newsday article of October 10th, was still under litigation. And then, according to some documents I found online today, was this actually litigated upon on November 14th? And was there a decision? What was the outcome of that? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it seems as though the memo from the engineering company happened on November 9th. Your announcement was October 10th. The interoffice memo from Richard Lenz was November 13th. There was another one November, 21st, stating that the request was in for this $8,500, and then it's on the TOB agenda tonight. So I guess I'm trying to figure out how there could be $8,500 and a request for a topographical survey when this site is still under litigation. And perhaps it's not because this happened on November 14th. So that's the first one. That's on 795. It seems questionable to me that we would be spending money on a site that maybe is still under litigation. That's why I'm bringing it up. That being said, I have two young sons. I'd love if that park was put together. That would be fabulous. Okay. The next one is 784. This also, if I'm understanding this correctly, this is for you to have a memorandum of agreement between Town of Oyster Bay and Nassau County. Is this for the roadway restoration?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Pearson, I met with the deputy supervisor this afternoon because I had plenty of questions.
Oh, great.
And hopefully, we're going to work closely with Nassau County to save our residents, which are county residents also, money, and repair some roads.
Okay, great. Because that was my question. I mean, obviously, this was a program that you all had announced on October 16th, and there was a lot of back and forth. I know Legislator Drucker sent you a letter August 30th saying there was no intermunicipal agreement, back and forth from Mr. Nocella to Drucker on September 7th.
We believe the spirit of that letter was incorrect.
Which letter, I'm sorry?
Mr. Drucker's letter, because we had already had negotiations going on with the county attorney's office.
Okay. And then on September 26th, there was a FOIL that indicated there was no intermunicipal agreement. The county voted on their budget on October 30th, and as I think if anybody saw Newsday, now NIFA is challenging that budget as well. So you are now asking to go into an intermunicipal agreement with the county, but is the county even able to enter into an agreement with the Town of Oyster Bay if NIFA, which is overseeing the county budget, is disagreeing with their budget? So that's sort of my question. I would like some clarification on the restoration roadway or roadway restoration. I'm confusing the words. and how that's going to work with the county. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's bring up a representative from the town attorney's office who negotiated this. Matt, would you step forward, please? Please state your presence.
Yes, of course. Again, Matthew Rose, Deputy Town Attorney. Just for clarity's purpose, I did not negotiate the arrangement, but I'm generally familiar with where we are and where we're hoping to go.
So, we have had ongoing negotiations with the county on this issue. We realize we have many roads that need repaving. We know that there's a tremendous priority of this administration and this town board to get these roads paved. Let's speak about our negotiations with the county so that we may answer the resident's question.
Well, to dovetail off of what Councilman Mackinnon said, the entire intent of this arrangement and this shared service agreement is to result in a savings to the taxpayer. There are ways that government can work together, surprising as that might sound, that actually result in efficiencies and a better delivery of service to the taxpayer.
While that's satire, I want to point out that in terms of the shared services law that Governor Cuomo enacted that we have been following, no municipality on Long Island has saved more, no town or other level of municipality outside of the counties, obviously. The programs have to go through the county. But the town of Oyster Bay has the #1 highest amount of savings through the governor's shared service program. So it was our motivation to not only take advantage of this program as intended by Governor Cuomo, but then to go full throttle to make sure that we were saving more than any other town or smaller municipality in all of Long Island. We're very proud of that fact.
I'm not questioning your motivation, Supervisor. I'm curious if the county is realistically able to enter into this agreement.
Well, while we can't, let's talk about the negotiations. So we reached out to the county attorney's office,
right,
and we've had ongoing negotiations.
That's
Tell
correct.
us about those, please.
Well, again, the idea here is to create a program by which we can use our mutual resources to repave roadways that are in need of paving. And the idea would be that in some cases we'll use their equipment because they have equipment that may be able to do the task that's in need of completion. And of course, the town would then compensate the county for whatever equipment or labor is provided under this agreement. I mean, that's the crux of it. I don't know if there's much more to it.
So instead of, for instance, in one scenario, instead of going out and buying that tremendous equipment needed for road paving, we could utilize the counties and save a tremendous amount of money.
No question about it.
In purchasing asphalt materials and so forth, and I see Commissioner Lenz, we have him here, so we can always bring him up to further the discussion. But in terms of by consolidating the purchase of that asphalt and paving materials, we bring the unit costs down, don't we?
I mean, that's how it typically works in the world. You buy in bulk and you get a better price for the product.
And are we, in fact, doing this through the governor's shared services program?
It's entirely my understanding that, and not only with respect to road paving, but with salt and sand for the winter season and any other variety of the town services that our residents expect that we'll deliver.
And has it been, and this probably may be a question for another member of the staff, but clearly every elected official in this town knows, has it been the indication of the public that they would like their roads repaved?
I think the room has answered the question for me. Yes, of course.
Clearly, this is the motivation, this is the will of the people.
Absolutely.
Clearly the will. And for the purposes of the public, by passing this resolution this evening, what does that enable?
That then would allow us to enter into the arrangement so that we could actually use the services of the county when and where appropriate.
Whether the county is able to or not, we have to, in fact, pass our resolution first.
No question, because without this requires two parties. And I certainly hope, for the residents' sake, that the county can get it done. We have within our power tonight to get it done.
So we're doing our part as elected officials to begin this process, or rather, more than begin, because we've already been long negotiating to see that we take care of our responsibility.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, any other questions?
I just maybe ask Matthew to answer the question about the Liberty site.
Certainly.
Oh, right. I know that there was a recent appearance in the Appellate Division, Second Department. I think I heard November 14th. Yeah, go.
I think the point might be that regardless of whether or not the litigation is still going on, we still own the property.
We own the property, and we will own the property.
With regard to the price of
the value.
Property, yes.
It's totally about the value, not whether or not the town has true title to the property. That's a settled question.
So it's within our right to do studies, topographical studies, and this is what we need to do.
Our land, if we need to determine how best to use it, we should be.
And we shouldn't be wasting time worried about a lawsuit, just, because it will be another year that another kid will grow up, because honestly, Ms. Pearson mentioned her young sons. I remember I had 2 young daughters, and we were hoping to use that land.
So by waiting for the outcome of this case, our residents would be impacted because they and their children, including the resident who asked the question, would be negatively impacted if we were to wait on this.
If the town were to put a halt on everything waiting for court proceedings to resolve, it would be virtually impossible to do anything in terms of delivering services to the residents. But as the councilwoman indicated, this is about the value, not whether we own the property and whether we can use it as the town and its residents see fit.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? All right. Our next speaker is... Yes?
Still kind of.
I actually had one question on that topic.
On that, please step forward. Would you please give us your name and address for the record?
Good evening, Dan O'Connor, 9 Sylvia Street, Glenhead. I've been up here various times over the last 3 or 4 years on this road project topic. And a couple questions I'd ask. One is, how do the various unions feel about this commingling agreement between county and town?
I can answer that with Mr. O'Connor real quick. They're okay with it.
They are.
Local
Okay.
881 of ours and local 880 of the county.
Okay, good. Because rumors in Glenhead are that the union opposed it, and that's why it's actually been put off again. We had heard dates that the general area that I've come up to speak about, various, was going to get done. There was monies that were found a year or 2 ago to do it. And then latest was that October 1st was going to begin the construction. As one who tries to cut through red tape and baloney, I'm just hoping that it really speeds up, knowing that I've fallen on the street. I've witnessed other people fall on the street, get more injured than I did. And I'd just like to see it really start going. We do pay our taxes to the town of Oyster Bay, and those streets have not been repaved since 1983. And I'm not going to ask where those monies have gone over those years, but it really needs to get done now.
Then please take tonight's motion and our vote on it as proof positive of this administration's commitment and this town board's commitment to deal with one of the biggest problems that we see, and that's the upkeep and maintenance of our roads.
Actually, a survey was done by the Long Island Contractors Association maybe 2 years ago, that 63% of our residents felt that was the biggest problem in Oyster Bay were our roads.
Sure. That wouldn't surprise me. And if the county does not move forward, what is the plan
We're still,
B?
as we're doing right now, we're continuing to do road work as we speak this time of year, and obviously as far into the season as possible. So we have been doing paving. We will continue to do paving work. We passed a budget knowing that we will be going forward and continuing. We had a presentation at a board meeting talking about a brand new program that we've put in place with Highway to address what the priority of roads will be. So it's not somebody calls, oh, do my road first.
Oh, of course.
It's a very scientific process, and we have presented it not only here at a board meeting for the public, but in other locations, so that people understand how the roads get done, what the assessment process is, and to ensure that it's fully transparent. But all of this is in an effort to make a very high priority of getting the roads paved, and we are currently paving our roads.
Okay. Thank you. And there was one other question, if
And the
someone
unions
could
are
look
fine
into
with
it. That was my most important thing, because the word in the town was that the unions were not
A
fine
great
with
teaching
it.
moment for everybody. You described this as there was a rumor going around.
Sure.
So when we try to get information out to the public, and we do that, and hopefully the media is always there at our events each and every time when we're trying to get our information out. It's very, very helpful that we get our information out. Mailings sometimes get information out. That's one of many ways. Going to the website. All of this is to try to get the actual facts out. And
Hence why I'm here asking the question.
And please feel free to contact my office or the office of the town board members.
Ms. O'Connor's not shy about contacting our offices. But
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jonathan Clark.
So my question, good evening, everyone. Jonathan Clark, 59 Marion Lane, Jericho, New York. And basically, I'm glad that you're taking action so quickly on the zombie home problem that's been plaguing Breezy Point and the town of Oyster Bay in general. But a couple questions. The Breezy Point Civic Association was wondering is the $350,000 grant that came from Schneiderman from the lawsuits against Wall Street, the bankers, what is that money?
Actually came from a state grant.
Right, but essentially that state grant was as a result of Schneiderman suing several banks in the foreclosure process, regardless of where the money comes from.
Reality is it came from the state budget.
Okay, so that money, what is it specifically being used for in regard to the zombie home projects? And is outside counsel going to be hired in order to pursue what's going to be adopted in a resolution tonight, hopefully? Above and beyond that, do we have an actual number of how many zombie homes are within the town of Oyster Bay? And those are the basic questions that we have right now.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Macaron, would you please come forward?
It's only, yeah.
Well, it doesn't relate directly to one of these resolutions. I'd like you to please inform us, if you could, in terms of how we're spending the grant, what our program is, and certainly feel free to talk about today's program as well. I hope everyone, if not tomorrow and future days, will be able to open the daily newspaper and read about what we're doing on zombie homes, including what we did today in knocking down 2 of the many that we have planned.
Yes, that's correct, Supervisor. As you know, this grant was acquired by the Department of Intergovernmental Affairs, Colin Bell. He is not here tonight, but he has the specific guidelines as to how we're spending the money, but I do know enough about it to speak tonight. Of the $350,000, there's a portion, the first portion that was set aside was for the town attorney's office to hire an outside counsel to look at our current zoning ordinance or building code, to make recommendations on how we can strengthen it, and to provide procedures to the Department of Planning and Development as we go forward with these homes. So that process has been initiated. There's a hearing on, a resolution tonight calling for a hearing on December 12th, and that will be the subject of some zoning changes to our code to assist us in dealing with these zombie homes and vacant properties. Once that is in place, the second component of it is for Intergovernmental Affairs to go out for an outside consultant to inventory zombie homes throughout the town of Oyster Bay. We do have a list of those that we know of that people submit complaints to.
I'm troubled. Why are we looking for an outside consultant when we have so many people on staff that are capable of doing it?
Well, that's an interesting concept. We don't have that many code enforcers.
Okay, but we do
Inspectors?
have sanitation that goes up and down every street in the town. We have highway that's up and down the streets in the town.
Well,
We need to get reimbursed, though.
Look and report back.
Well, I believe it's a part of the grant that when it
Yeah,
was
to spend
applied for this consultant and the money was allocated of the 350, there's specific guidelines, 25,000 for this, 50,000 for this, and one of the line items is for the outside consultants to be hired by the town to inventory, work with planning and development to inventory these homes.
I have a suggestion. Why don't we hold a meeting? We could do it up in my office. Councilman McEnroe can come to do that. We'll bring in Colin Bell, either you and a representative from your office, and we'll go line by line, because I know the grant process, and I know it can be very complex. And let's show not only the councilman, but anyone else who would like to be there. You can't all be there at the same time, but we can make accommodations to inform or meet separately with board members, so we can walk them through the process and they can better understand how the allegations, how these monies have to be allocated in order for us to satisfy the mandates of the grant process.
That's fine.
All right.
Okay.
Now, can we speak to the motivation of the town in terms of getting these properties cleaned up? Today, for instance, we took down 2 homes because we had, under our current code, we had the right to do that. In the homes in East Massapequa that we certainly very motivated to clean up those properties. It's a little different scenario that's taking a little longer. Otherwise, those homes, in my opinion, would have been very first on the list.
Right. The ones in Locust Valley today, when we had received the complaints came in up for overgrowth vegetation on the properties. For the property of 47, you could not even see the house. That's how overgrown the trees and the shrubs around the house were.
And that's 47 13th Avenue.
13th Street.
13th Street.
51 was overgrown, a lot in the front, not so much in the back, but again, you couldn't see the structural damage that was in the rear of the properties. So we did our normal procedure. We tried notifying the property owners. After a 5-day notice, when they did not respond, we then sent the order to the highway department to do the cleanup of just the vegetation. When that took place, the inspectors came back, highway notified our code enforcement inspectors and said, you better send someone to see these homes, because now that we've uncovered all the vegetation, you can see the homes, and in the case of 47, the roof was collapsing. I mean, there was windows all open. Water completely filled the basement of 47. Similar structural deficiencies were present in 51. Building inspectors went out, did their inspections, came back, and provided me with written reports indicating the structural damages. And for those of you who do not know 13th Street, a lot of these homes were built in the early 1900s, not pursuant to zoning codes. So the homes are literally 2 feet, a foot away from property lines. So if one home goes down and collapses, it's going to affect the neighboring properties. So under Chapter 93-20, I was able to deem these immediately to come down to be demolished. There's no hearing response required. We needed to coordinate with National Grid, PSE&G, the Water District to shut off all the utilities. Once that was completed, we were able to schedule the demolition through highway.
And didn't we also take a look at it environmentally? We tested the water.
Yes, we
ensured that.
Right, we removed all the oil tank. We also laid down traps for the rodent control and so forth. So that we all did. We secured the property and to prevent people from going in. So that was a very specific type of situation that could be done immediately because of the structural integrity of these two homes and the close proximity in the event they were to collapse on their own, what type of other damage they can do to adjoining properties. In the case of other properties throughout the town of Oyster Bay,
including those in East Massapequa,
a home just boarded up is not structurally unsound. It's a nuisance, it's an eyesore. So in the case of 550, is it 510? But there's so many different numbers, 510. The inspectors went out to see what they can see from the outside. They looked to see if roofs were sagging, so forth. From the outside of the property, it does not deem it structurally unsound.
So under our law, we don't have the right to take the house down without the permission of the owner.
Correct. Well, there's a different procedure that can happen. So we have asked the town attorney's office to go into court to allow our inspectors to gain entry into this house. And when we go into the house, depending on what we find inside, because it's been vacant for so many years, we may uncover things that will require us to allow me to issue an order immediately. But from viewing it from the outside, I cannot sign that order. Now, if we go in, and it still is not structurally unsound, there's provisions in our current code, which we are going to strengthen in 2 weeks, that will require a series of steps that have to take place. And it's a survey, not a physical survey of a surveyor, but it's a report, again, from the building inspectors. They will go and look at all the different items in the house, windows being open, again, not structurally unsound items, but things that are a nuisance to the public and things of that nature. That will be served to the property owner. If the property owner does not respond within a certain time frame, then we can move forward to demolish the building. If the property does respond, if the property owner does respond within a certain time frame, there's 2 ways he can respond. He could say, yes, I'm okay with it, you could do what you want with it. He could say, I'm okay with it, I want to, please give me 72 hours to rectify the situation, demolish it, whatever we deem needs to be done. Or he could say, you're not touching my house, I want a hearing. At that point, a hearing will take place before the town board. And
a public hearing that the neighbors would
the
attend?
property owner will make his statements, property owners will come, neighboring property owners, building department, town attorney's office, and there'll be a hearing on that. So this is what we're working towards for the hearing in 2 weeks. There'll be new language put in. We're talking about other different definitions and so forth. And, that's how we will proceed.
Please make sure that our residents, and I'm going to ask public information to help out with that too, we want to make sure when we hold that hearing that all of our residents who are interested, including the residents who are here tonight, get the full information on this so they can come here, they can testify, they can share with us the information, they can explain what they've been going through, and they have been going through a very difficult situation, not for months, but for years. And we want to make sure that their voices are heard, especially in terms of getting this hearing done properly and quickly to give us the strength and the tools needed to legally remove these houses. Because even though it's our responsibility to follow the law, and we will continue to do that, the residents continue to look out their window, to drive by these eyesores, and even if they may not have an immediate danger, as we saw today, I was there this morning. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a carpenter, but you clearly don't want to walk inside those houses. They look like the wind could could bring these houses down. It was so dangerous. It was very, very obvious. But we want to ensure that the residents have their say and that they're here. So let's please get their information, utilize point people, including the Civic Association, so all of the residents can be here who are interested in being heard at that hearing.
Okay.
All right, are there any other questions?
I have a further question to add to this.
Commissioner, I would like to thank your department, and I would like to thank Highway for all of their assistance, not only today, but in the days and weeks leading up to today. It certainly proved to us, and it should prove to the public of our resolve to make sure that we are putting every resource behind curing the problem of these buildings. They're eyesores, they're zombie homes, and they're terrible. And one could only hope that you open tomorrow's paper to read about what we did and understand the importance of this. One could only hope that the public is included in this process by way of the media reporting on today's very, very important news. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Well, now, what's very interesting to me is that if we look at Law 1308, which was passed in the Assembly when you were in the Assembly, part of that law was to create a zombie home registry. Now, I don't know if the commissioner misspoke, but she said that there was a firm hired to determine if houses were vacant or not. But this already exists under New York State law, and that banks have to actually register homes in New York State database. So I am perplexed as to why a $350,000 grant was given, and then a patronage or an award of a contract was given to a firm to find out whether houses were vacant when this has already been established under New York State law.
Mr.
This is
Clark,
duplicative.
I think it's very difficult to discuss this particular grant without Colin Bell being here, and I'll tell you why I say that, because I'm a very active participant in the Hicksville grant, which is also given to us by the state, and they were specific in that grant about allocating, this is the amount of money, you have to use a consultant, and they in fact went so far as to assign us a consultant that was, the RFP was done by the state and given to us. So I understand where you're coming from, and that it seems outrageous, but this is not necessarily, we don't know without IGA here, without Colin Bell here, whether it was done by the state and given to us. So I understand where you're coming from, and that it seems outrageous, but this is not necessarily, we don't know without IGA here, without Colin Bell here, whether we picked the consultant, the state picked the consultant, it was required.
Just yet. The RFP hasn't even been sent out by Colin Bell's office. We're not at that point.
Right.
The hearing comes first with the zoning changes, and then the next step would be for IGA to send out the RFP.
Well, that's putting words in the councilwoman's mouth, but that's what she's saying. We don't know.
Without IGA here.
IGA here.
This gentleman had indicated that the firm
Yeah,
hired a
that's not before us.
We realize that.
He said the state has a registry.
Mr. Clark, this is not before us this evening. So I brought you up as a courtesy, but this conversation is more for public comment. In terms of the town's resolve to bring the assistance asked by the public, we're 100%. We're looking to utilize the resources we have now. We're looking to utilize, and we are utilizing the state law, and we are going to be strengthening our code, recognizing the needs of our public, recognizing the needs of every neighborhood for a variety of reasons. In this case, could be a variety of reasons, including the hurricanes that our town sustained. So we are here acting in their interest. And I know that's, and I'm assuming that's why you're here this evening, advocating on behalf of residents who we support 100%. And today's actions of knocking down those two homes makes very clear our resolve to support our communities, to make them safer, to take away these eyesores that reduce property values, that degrade everything that makes communities special in the town of Oyster Bay. But we're not voting. This is the portion of the meeting where we take comment in terms of our votes on these resolutions. And what you're describing is not one of the items that we're voting on this evening. And we're going to be looking at all considerations, as the councilman aptly brought to our attention, the fact that we have resources in the field, including our sanitation personnel and our planning and development personnel, because we will be continuing to put every resource at our disposal on this issue.
Well, I'm glad, and I just know that we have a town attorney, and I hope that that's all the legal counsel that we need on this, and that we don't have to hire outside counsel.
Yeah, we understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Being no other speakers have indicated they would like to speak, do we have correspondence?
No, but we can call for the vote on the resolutions.
So please,
The
if you
motion
would.
was made by Councilman Muscarella, seconded by Councilman McEnone. This is, for the record, TF 18-17 through 800 for Councilman McEnone.
Thank you, James.
Okay, Supervisor Saladino?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Councilman McEnone?
Before I vote, I just want to say in the future, if we have a Friday off before a board meeting, please try to get the stuff to us on Wednesday, the packets. It makes life a lot easier, but I vote aye.
Councilwoman Alessia?
Vote aye.
Councilwoman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilman Imbrodo?
Aye.
And Councilman Hand?
Aye.
Motion to adopt resolutions TF 18-17 through 800 passes with 7 ayes.
Is there anything else, James?
Yes, I'm going to do that right now for you. May I have a motion to adopt resolutions number 801 and 802, and I am going to read them all. Okay. 801, whereas the town board in the town of Oyster Bay has reviewed a proposed local law entitled A Local Law Authorizing a Local Retirement Incentive Program for the eligible employees of the town of Oyster Bay, and whereas a duly advertised public hearing on said legislation was held by the town board of the town of Oyster Bay on November 28, 2017, at which hearings all parties interested in the subject matter and desiring to be heard were heard, and whereas the Town of Oyster Bay Department of Environmental Resources, Town Environmental Quality Review Division, by memorandum dated November 20, 2017, recommended town board determination that the subject legislation is deemed to fall under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act 6 NYCRR Part 617, Section 617.5, small parentheses C, Type 2 action list as item number 20 relative to routine and contingency agency administration and management, not included new programs or major reordering of priorities that may affect the environment, and as such does not require completion of an environmental assessment form, environmental impact statement, or other environmental considerations. Now therefore it be resolved that the town board of the town of Oyster Bay declares that the adoption of such local law is a type 2 action pursuant to New York State Environmental Quality Review Act 6 NYCRR Part 617, Section 617.5, small c, Type 2, action listed number 20, and be it further resolved that said local law, and I can have Councilman, our Deputy Town Attorney come up because I do not have that number from the state yet, but it will be provided, if that's acceptable to you, if you like the attorney to read into the record what that procedure is.
Not necessary.
Thank you, sir. Entitled, A Local Law Authorizing a Local Retirement Incentive Program for the Eligible Employees of the Town of Oyster Bay, is hereby adopted and shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State, and be it further resolved that the town attorney is hereby authorized and directed to file this local law with the Secretary of State. Okay, that's 801. 802, I'm working very fast, Councilwoman. Whereas, a lot of pressure. Whereas the town board under the town of Oyster Bay has reviewed the proposed local law authorizing a voluntary separation incentive program for the eligible employees of the town of Oyster Bay, and whereas a duly advertised public hearing on said legislation was held by the town board of the town of Oyster Bay on November 28, 2017, at which hearings all parties interested in the subject matter and desiring to be heard were heard, and whereas the Town of Oyster Bay Department of Environmental Resources, Town Environmental Quality Review Division, by memorandum dated November 20th, 2017, recommended Town Board determination that the subject legislation is deemed to fall under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act 6, NYCRR, Part 617, Section 617.5, parentheses, small c, Type 2 action listed as item number 20 relative to routine and continuing agency administration and management, not including new programs or major reordering of priorities that may affect the environmental, and as such does not require completion of an environmental assessment form, environmental impact statement, or other environmental considerations. Now therefore it be resolved that Town Board of the Town of Oyster Bay declares that the adoption of such local law is a Type 2 action pursuant to New York State Environment Quality Review Act 6, NYCRR, Part 617, Section 617.5, parentheses, small c, Type 2 action list, item number 20, and be it further resolved that the said local law -17 entitled a local law authorizing a voluntary separation incentive program for the eligible employee of the Town of Oyster Bay is hereby adopted and shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State, and be it further resolved that the town attorney is hereby authorized and directed to file this local law with the Secretary of State. Now, Councilman, you also wanted added in that law, no voluntary separated employee will be brought by as a consultant. That is not in this local law now. You have the affirmation of the supervisor, which will have to be brought back.
His word's good enough for me, James.
Okay, I'm just getting it all on the record. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and for our court reporter, I will give these to you, so I know I've been speaking very fast, but it will have to be re-looked at. So, but it is in the record.
And it'll go through environmental review again?
I hope not.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so they're read into the record. Now, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilman Muscarella, second by Councilman McEnroe. On the vote, Supervisor Saladino?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Councilman McEnroe?
Aye.
Councilwoman Alessia?
Aye.
Councilwoman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilman Imbrodo?
Aye.
Councilman Hand?
Aye.
Motion to adopt Resolution 801 and 802 passes with 7 ayes. The calendar is complete.
Supervisor, I make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Yes. Okay. Now that we have our meeting closed, it is time once again for public comment. Our first speaker will be Paul Song. Good evening, how are you?
Good evening, Supervisor and members of the Town Board. My name is Paul Sohn, and I'm from 2 Woodbury Court in Hicksville. My question is about the Gold Age housing in Country Point and Plainview, because the last minutes that I have seen was June 20th, saying that it was been, for any kind of development was put on hold. Is it still on hold?
Which development is this?
Country Point at Plainview.
Let's get planning and development up here. Commissioner, would you please join us?
Because you can see they have done a lot of other development for the condominiums.
Yeah. Country Point,
Yes.
S2 housing?
Yes, you were speaking to
Yes.
S2 housing.
There's concerns about the golden age housing, this S2 units at Country Point at Plainview, because I now see that a condominium's coming up, but what I last looked at was minutes on June 20th that the golden age housing units are going to be put on hold because of litigation over the Fair Housing Act. Is that still on hold? Yeah. Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry. So, as you know, Country Point is a multi-project development in Plainview, and there's various types of housing being built at the site. It is the developer's decision as to how he wants to build out the property. There's commercial properties and different aspects of residential. He has started the residential portions. We've issued building permits for some of the condominiums and the townhouses, which are going to be market rate. He has indicated to us that it is his intention to do the senior housing or the golden age housing as the last phase of a multi-year project. So we, in planning and development, we cannot dictate which phase he's going to do. He has, like I indicated, he's indicated to us the last phase is going to be the S2 housing, and whether or not that has anything to do with the litigation as to why he has it on hold or he's planning to do it at the end, I can't speak for the builder. So, but it's still in the project.
Still on the books.
Right, and it's a multi-year project. It's, several hundred units, so he may start coming to us for building permits, at the end of next year or in 2019, but it is based upon his schedule.
And Commissioner, he is moving rapidly on the commercial and the residential.
Oh, absolutely.
Percentage now he's up to? Is it up like 40%, 50%?
Not for residential at all. We just started issuing building permits. I believe there's a total of somewhere around 80 buildings, and we've issued up to around 20 building permits so far for the residential, so he has a while still to go, but he is constantly asking for permits.
But on the whole development, how much percentage would the commercial and residential and?
I don't have that break, because that was all approved prior to my tenure, so I'm more in line with just issuing the building permits, not the whole layout of the project. Okay.
Thank you. Good night.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Fowler? Charles Fowler? Is Mr. Fowler here? Okay. Harold Searing? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm again back here to discuss the Child Victims Act. I was going to read a whole speech, but I'll just make it quick and snappy. Are you going to be issuing a proclamation to support that? Yes or no?
Will we issue a resolution?
A resolution, or yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Well, we're clearly in support of the concept.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it's about the details. So the town can't preside over, that's state law, as we've discussed in the past.
Right.
But we're in support of protecting the victims of sexual abuse.
Well, the city of Albany and Saratoga County did issue a proclamation urging their senators to vote for the bill. So along that same lines, you could do that and have them, urge the senators, because the session's coming up in January.
Yes.
And, the state of, abuse all over this world, it's horrible. So we have to
mention
protect
the
children.
senators, but, there's a responsibility in both houses, obviously.
The Assembly already passed the bill.
Right, but it's their responsibility to also negotiate with the Senate to come up with a bill. I did negotiations, as I've mentioned in previous board meetings, I did negotiations on legislation to recommit offenders to keep them off the street, the civil confinement legislation, which the Assembly refused to pass. It went on for year after year. I had bills personally that I sponsored and drafted, asking the Assembly leadership to please consider it, and they refused. So it's really both houses, not just one or the other. But yes, the answer is, I for one, I can't speak for all of my colleagues, but I for one will continue to advocate.
Mr. Searing, I'll send a letter to my senator.
Thank you, I'd appreciate that, because they all work for us, you know.
Yes.
And it's a simple bill, really, when you look at it, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for continuing the fight for children and people of all ages. Dave Stanton?
Good evening.
Hi, how are you this evening?
Good. Dave Staten, 349 West Nikolai Street in Hicksville. I spoke to this board on September 12th. I made several requests regarding improving safety, quality of life, and aesthetics in the neighborhood where I've lived for 35 years, and that's the Duffy Park section of Hicksville. I'd like to go on the record to thank Supervisor Saladino for your quick action in addressing those requests. After that meeting, you engaged several members of the town team, Commissioners McCaffrey, Bishop, and Lenz, to take action, which they did. And we're very appreciative of those quick actions that were taken to make our neighborhood safer and just more appealing, and other actions which I am confident will take place in the future. So thanks for that. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
I do have an additional request. Is it possible for this board to exert any influence to get any New York State resources engaged to do road improvements in Hicksville?
Yes, I traveled to Albany twice this year asking for just that. We have communications with members of the legislature, with the governor's office. We have been successful with certain members, and other members we're still asking, and we're hoping that our requests as residents are not falling on deaf ears with these members.
Okay, that's good to know. I've reached out to my assemblyman, Mike Montesano, on a few occasions, and while Mike's a nice guy, there haven't been a lot of results.
I reached out to my assemblywoman in the Massapequas and have found the same.
Well, I know...
As well as my senator, who led me to believe that there's some potential here, but once again, I mean, when Colin Bell is here, we can give that answer, but I am as frustrated as you are after reaching out to my assemblywoman and my senator where I live.
I know Councilwoman Alessia is familiar with Hicksville. Probably many of you are as well. So what I'm referring to on state roads are routes 107 and 106 that go the north-south the entire length of Hicksville. And the medians on those roads are horrendous.
Stan, Supervisor, Councilman Lesser and myself sit on the planning committee for downtown Hicksville revitalization, along with Mr. Molinari. And that's going to be addressed during this, how we're going to make it look a lot better and hopefully use some of that money to improve the roadway and the medians. And make it safer for pedestrians and motorists.
All right, I apologize. I've not been to any of those meetings. I know there's one coming up in December that I'm planning to attend. That sounds great. I'm not sure that that's what grant money should be spent on, but I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. So if that is part of the plan, I'll be very pleased. But on an ongoing basis, we have road crews and highway guys who this is the type of work they do, and yet our medians are in such horrendous disrepair that it's very frustrating.
Dave, the answer to your question that was part of the reason of your coming here this evening is yes. We are continuing to do that. While you heard Mr. Colin Bell is not here this evening, he has been given that among other duties to continue to push for grants, to research grants. We also have an expression, an Albany expression, called moto monies. And that's something that is for highway use. CHIPS is another one. So we're exploring all of those. And the answer is we are continuing to advocate, to explore, and to seek state grants. And every grant we can get, it helps the taxpayers, it gets the services done, and we realize that we continue to make our maintenance of our infrastructure and our roadways one of our highest priorities, as I stated earlier.
And plus, the governor just appointed a new commissioner of Department of Transportation, so hopefully they'll be more responsive than the previous one was.
But the answer to your question is yes. We are making a full court effort to continue to get those monies, as well as monies that we're committing for our town roads.
Thank you. I am encouraged. There is a section of 107 north of the Hazel Street and Bloomingdale Road intersection where the medians have been completely redone. Sometime in the last couple of months, there's some very decorative red, it's probably poured concrete to look like red brick, but they've gotten rid of the dead trees, the weeds, and they've just replaced it with sod, with green grass, and it's beautiful. So I'm hoping that that's going to work its way up 107 to the all the way up into Jericho and beyond, because it needs serious attention.
It really does.
So thank you for all your efforts on behalf of us in our little section of Hicksville, and for anything you can do on the state level to keep our community prettier.
Thank you for not only making the effort to come here, but to be patient enough to wait for the public comment portion in an effort to not only give us your feelings, but also to thank us. It's a wonderful feeling when we're working together. This is how town government is supposed to work, and it is, and we're very appreciative. Thank you. But in addition, once you take a seat, Mr. Bishop, why don't you come forward and just give us the latest status on that so we can be absolutely thorough in addressing Mr. Stanton's issues.
John Bishop, Deputy Commissioner, Town of Oyster Bay Highway Department. The area in question, the residents in that community were disgusted with how the median looked on that 106, 107 area. It was requested that the town step in and meet with some of the civic groups. Originally, that area was proposed by some of the civic leaders to install gardens, which were never maintained. So we went in there, cleaned them up, put sod, watered them, and notified the state that we had taken care of the problem.
Thank you. I know, Commissioner, that a couple times a year you guys go down there and clean it all up, and you guys do a great job of taking care of it.
The thing is that because there were some gardens that were created as a civic, and then the civic bailed out and people were not responsive, so there was a little litigation as to can we or can't we, and then it got to the point where the town was able to go in there, clean it up, and make sure that the sod took before we left it back for the state.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Fowler, has he returned? No. Mr. Siracusa?
Good evening. Gregory Siracusa, 94 Briarwood Lane, Plainview. Since I was last came to the last meeting I was able to make, Looks like our neighbors in the town of North Hempstead regarding the leaf blower issue have taken steps to look at the issue. They formed a committee, and they actually were going to have a vote, and it was canceled. But they are taking steps to look at minimum, a seasonal ban, which it seems a lot of communities in the Northeast have implemented, and it seems to be successful. And I'm asking the board, can we follow in the footsteps of North Hempstead and start doing something about this issue that is a quality of life issue? You have a quality of life task force now, and I wanted to ask also, is the public going to be able to have any input with this task force, quality of life?
Well, certainly. One of the ways in which to do that is to contact my office, and we can bring these issues before the task force, as well as there's many of these that we'll just get directly to the commissioner, who I'm going to call up in a moment after you're done to give us a status on the leaf blower issue.
Now, also I wanted to ask, there's a woman that runs the organization called Huntington Calm.
I'm sorry, called what?
The organization is called Huntington Calm. They're
Column?
Calm, C-A-L-M.
Calm.
Calm, right. So they're an organization that's trying to eliminate, or at least have the use of electric leaf blowers as opposed to gas-powered leaf blowers for a number of reasons. You know, again, it's a health, as I mentioned the previous meeting, it's a health risk, it's a health hazard. Your job is to protect us from these health risks. She had come in and made a presentation to Commissioner Macaron. It was very informative, and she had asked me, can she make the presentation to the board? It's a short presentation, it's just a PowerPoint presentation, but it's very informative and explains all the health risks, health hazards, and quality of life issues that these leaf blowers are creating.
We can work something out. It could be at a special meeting. I've already met with members of the industry to speak to them about that. We've stepped up enforcement of unlicensed landscapers, and we're continuing to take this very seriously. So yes, we can set up something. I think perhaps we should include members of the planning and development staff, because that's under their auspices, and whatever board members would like to attend.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bless you. Commissioner Macaron, would you kindly step forward? Commissioner, we've had many conversations about this. I've met with the professionals, the association, to talk about this. We've talked about unlicensed landscapers. We've talked about many of the issues concerning this. Can you give us a status on this important issue?
Well, code enforcement, they have stepped up the enforcement, and we've worked with Mr. Siracusa on his specific issues with his landscape, or the landscapers in his neighborhood, and we continue to do that as we get complaints. As he also indicated, early on, I guess sometime in the early spring, or actually it was the late spring, Mr. Sager did come to my office and presented a PowerPoint presentation regarding the issues with the gas-powered leaf blowers and so forth. Deputy Commissioner Zeich was also in attendance. And this is an item that is for the Quality of Life Task Force. And I know Councilman Imbrodo, I've had discussions with him over the summer regarding this initiative, and it's something that, we'll bring to the committee, and to see about moving forward for, this next, summer season, whether or not the board would want to entertain, doing a seasonal ban on the gas-powered leaf blowers.
Do we have a status on Huntington? Do they have a hearing scheduled, for instance? Have they posted anything in terms, being that Huntington Calm is focused, I would imagine, primarily on the town board?
Yeah, I don't have the breakdowns. I do have it over in the office, but as he indicated, North Hempstead did have a hearing. They were moving forward. However, they have not gone forward and enacted new legislation at this point. But for Huntington, I'm not sure. She had given us several communities, not only on Long Island, but in Santa Monica, California, and so forth. I believe Southold has enacted it. One of the other items would be to do a test pilot in our town parks with our park personnel to see how they would utilize a electric leaf blower. East Hampton has done that, so that's another item that they were speaking to us about that we can discuss at the Quality of Life Task Force.
I'm going to please ask you to confer with Commissioner Pinto and talk about that, and I would also suggest you reach out to your counterparts in did you say that was Southampton, Southold?
Southampton and East Hampton.
In the Hamptons, okay. To get some information, let's see what their testing has turned up.
Okay.
And we take this issue very seriously, and we would like to see what their data says. I'm also very curious as to why North Hempstead began the process and then stopped.
And then halted it, that's correct.
They began the process and they just took a step back and formed a committee to investigate every aspect of it.
Okay.
They're actually moving forward.
Fair enough. Okay, we don't doubt that. So let's do some research to find out what the other municipalities have gleaned so far from their work, so that we could utilize some of their experience to do this to find the best way to address the issues that have been brought to us.
Okay.
All right,
All
thank
right,
you very much, Commissioner. And again, I want to thank you and your staff and Mr. Bishop, Mr. Lenz, and your staff for today. I think that today is a mile marker day in the history of the town of Oyster Bay. To move in on these problem zombie homes, to protect the residents, the way in which it was done, to ensure that the gas was disconnected, the electric was disconnected, I know you went as far as testing the water to ensure that we had addressed every environmental issue, and then to knock those homes down the way I witnessed. And it was really an exceptional process to show that we're quickly moving quickly, taking the issue of zombie homes very, very seriously, and now working to tighten our code to enable us to do that much more throughout our town. It's a big step in the right direction, and please, on behalf of the board members, thank your staffs of your divisions, departments for a job well done. Thank you, everyone, for your participation in this board meeting.